Marhaban bikum. I'm Sam Ross with Qasid Online. Today we're going to be discussing the Jumla Ismiya, the nominal sentence, which appears in Chapter 2 of Book 1 of Al-Kitaab. It's a very important subject of study. We've actually seen it once before, but our goal today is to get much more depth on it. Let's begin with an example appearing right here from Chapter 2. Here Maha says, Walidati muwadhafa fi maktab al-qubul fi Jamiat New York. My mother is an employee in the admissions office of New York University. It's a great example of a Jumla Ismiya for the simple reason that it starts with an ism, the phrase walidati, my mother. Over the course of today, we hope to get more depth on this very simple sentence. Let's get started with a breakdown of the two types of sentences in the Arabic language. I have the word juml here. Note, this is not jumla, not the word sentence. The plural of jumla is juml. Sometimes a broken plural has less words than the original. Consider, for example, kitab went to kutub. What are the types of sentences in the Arabic language? Well, the first one's called the Jumla Ismiya, as we mentioned before. Notice this phrase Ismiya, it's an ism nisba. It's a word ascribed to an ism. Just like Misr became Misri, meaning Egyptian, ism becomes ismi, meaning nounal. And it is a Jumla, a feminine word, I need Ismiyah, a feminine adjective. So it's a nounal sentence. Sounds a little weird, but that's fine. You might hear it called nominal. The distinguishing feature of a Jumla Ismiya is that it starts with an ism. So I'll write the word ism here. And I guess technically, if you want to match it, you might say an ism, right? Because ism begins with a vowel sound. So I'll put a little n there. Good. Okay. Here's an example. Maha tadrus. Maha is studying. Starts with an ism, the name Maha. Let's be careful. The word ism here, of course, means noun. Doesn't mean a proper name, though ism has both of those meanings in the Arabic language. Let's contrast that. A jumla could also be fi'liya, meaning a verbal sentence. Notice fi'liya is just like ismiya. It's an ism nisba, a word ascribed to a verb. And so that's something as simple as starting with a fi'l, not hard. And here's an example of a jumla fi'liya. We have tadrus Maha, meaning Maha studies. Now notice one strange thing. How do I translate that? Maha studies. How do I translate this? Maha studies. It's the same thing in English, but in Arabic they're technically different. Now you might say this seems awfully pedantic. Who cares if it's different classification if the translation's the same? Well, the point, of course, is that in Arabic they are technically a little bit different. Not just in our schema here, but in actual meaning. And over the course of today we'll discuss that a little tiny bit. Let's keep going after I erase the board. Alright. Important point for a Jumla Ismiya. Every nominal sentence, i.e. every Jumla Ismiya, has a mubtada and a khabar. The word mubtada, of course, means subject, and khabar means predicate. The rules of the Jumla Ismiyas are as follows. The mubtada must be definite. That could be either being a proper name, idafa, or having alif and lam. And the khabar is indefinite, as none of those things. Very good. Let's put it together. Consider, for example, a simple phrase. If I said, rajul majghul, is this a nominal sentence? Think about it. Hopefully you realize the answer is no. Why not? Because of course rajul is an indefinite word, and the mubtada needs to be definite. I have no definite words here, can't be a Jumla Ismiya. Let's contrast that. If I said al-rajul majghul, now I can have a Jumla Ismiya. Now I have a definite word in front, makes a great mubtada. Translation of the two, rajul majghul meaning a busy man. Notice an adjectival kind of thing. Second case, the man is busy. If you want to review this, you can look back at our discussion of the 4 basic constructions, which appeared in Chapter 1. Next topic, the word mubtada. One of the things we like to do at Qasid is get deep into the grammatical terms and know where they're coming from. It's nice to know the etymology of things. We talked previously about the word jama' being plural and its connection to jami'ah and yawm al-jum'ah and stuff like that. So what is a mubtada? What are the Arab grammarians really thinking of when they named it this? Well, we can look at a couple words in Arabic. We'll start, of course, with the word mubtada, which means subject. Here's 2 more words. I have mabda, which is a principle. Notice this is those great, homonym type things. Not a principle in the sense of like a school principle, but in the sense of like a, an axiom or something like that. And then we have mubtada, meaning a beginner. You might see in some cases with Arabic textbooks, they might say lil mubtadi'in, for beginners. So what do these have in common? Well, they have the ba, the dal, and the hamza, but what does the common connection seem to be? What does ba, dal, hamza indicate? Look at these words and see if you can figure it out. It's a little tough. If we neglect the word subject for now, we get somewhere. Notice the word beginner is kind of related to the word principle, because we often begin with principles. We often say, let's start with first principles. In fact, the meaning of the ba and the dal and the hamza in Arabic is beginning. And so the beginner, that makes sense, that's done. The principle is something you begin with, that makes sense. And then the word mubtada, subject is merely a figurative translation. The literal translation is more like the beginning thing or something like that. And so what's actually happening is that the Arabs have named the subject of the sentence with a very simplistic name, meaning the thing we begin with, which works great. Let's contrast that to the English. The word subject, what does that mean? Well, break it apart. Sub means like under, and ject means to throw. Think of the word eject. It's like throwing out of the plane or something like that. Now, what's the connection between a subject and throwing and all that stuff? It's a long, complicated story. The dictionary says Aristotle's involved and stuff like that. You can look it up if you want. Anyways, main important point, the mubtada is the beginning thing. Let's conclude with a discussion of translation. We have a nice principle for translating jumla ismiyas, and it's the following. The verb to be, i.e. in English, the verb to be, always separates the mubtada from the khabar. Let's take a look. Consider, for example, this sentence, Ahmad talib. Ahmad is a student. Notice what happened here. I have Ahmad is my mubtada. I'll put a meme there. And talib is my khabar. I'll put a kha there. When I do that, I can compare the translation. Of course, this thing is this thing. Ahmad is a student. Notice my verb to be, which is the word is, had the word Ahmad on one side and student on the other. And so I could say, put my meme for Ahmad because they correspond, and my kha for student because they correspond. Watch out for this principle. It might not seem very important right now, but as we add more complexity to the sentence, it becomes quite useful. Consider, for example, this sentence. Can we get it? There we go. Ahmed talib jadid. Now, how do I render this? Let's do it first grammatically. Ahmed must be the mubtada. It's an ism that comes first, and it's also definite. That makes sense. Who's the khabar? Well, it's everything else. So here's this big khabar right here. Where am I going to place my verb to be, therefore? Well, I have to separate the two. So in meaning, I'm going to put a verb to be right after the word Ahmed in my English translation. Let's take a peek there. There we go. Ahmed is a new student. And you can see how that worked out. I'm having some issues with the pen here, so let's make some space. Okay. Last example. We have Al-Tulab al-Jadidun min Amrika. What's going on here? Let's grammatically parse it first. Who's the mubtada? Must be the word tulab. It's the word that comes first in the sentence, and we saw that mubtada means the beginning word. Who's the khabar? It's not going to be al-Jadidun, right? Because, of course, that's also definite. It must be actually part of the mubtada. It must be the sifa, an adjective describing the tulab. So this whole thing is a mubtada phrase, and this little word here is technically an adjective, which means this must be the khabar, this phrase at the end. If that's the case, then I know the verb to be should go between this phrase and this phrase. How do I translate it? The new students are from America. And that takes us to the end of our discussion of the Jumla Ismiya. Thanks for joining us.